morning, good evening, everyone, wherever you are. We welcome you to Opsera webinar today. Our webinar is about benchmarking your engineering team, tools, and system to speed up software delivery. We will share lessons we've learned from high-performing engineering leaders and how they have gained visibility into the whole software delivery lifecycle. We have Mikhail here with us, so welcome and take it away, Mikhail.
Thanks, and appreciate everyone's time today joining. And just to set the table here, I'm not a huge fan of dragging on these type of presentations, so I'm going to kind of get to the point. We'll save some time towards the end for questions, and if anything comes up, please just put in the chat. I'll try to stop at certain points and answer any questions that you have. So with that being said, let me dive in here. So yeah, we're talking today about unified insights, and I'm coming from a different approach. I'll talk about my background here. So I've been on the sales side, but I'm also technical, where I did a lot of the implementations. And I've worked at companies like IBM, OpenText, Sumo Logic, and worked with probably half of the fastest growing companies in the Bay Area, doing the actual implementations. Working with all across the verticals, from Netscope to Byton to Sauce Labs, Lucid Motors, 23andMe, just a whole host of different kind of verticals. And I've seen a lot of successful implementations, and I've seen a lot of ones that are kind of failed, that didn't go through, or they just didn't really get it accomplished and got kind of 30 or 40% of the way there. So my background is more in the DevOps space. I've also worked with creating kind of SOCs and NOCs from a security standpoint. I started a security company, and visibility is obviously very important, especially after something serious happens, where you want visibility into what's going on in your environment, what's happened. So I've been doing this for probably 14 or so years, and it's just a different kind of lens that I see since I've worked with a host of different companies. And yeah, it's about me. And let's take a second to talk about the challenge. The challenge is you have one team, right, that's using a certain version of a tool, right? And that's on-prem, that's in the cloud. You have a different team using a different tool, and a whole host of different deployment applications, deploying them to cloud, on-prem, hybrid, and it becomes a tangled mess to be able to say, all right, well, let's standardize and let's figure out what's happening in our environment and get visibility in any of this. You have 7, 8 different teams, it becomes even more complicated. And typically we see kind of like two things. One is, a company tries to do it themselves, and do it successfully. That takes a huge amount of manpower to be able to go and manually run these type of scripts to go pull this information and get exactly the KPIs you're looking for on a consistent basis and maintain it. And it takes an army to do it. Large companies I've seen have teams of 30 or 40 folks just doing that. And it's very, very hard. The other side of the coin is folks that are using, one solution to try to do it on, one side of it, so it's not across their entire organization. They usually have, somewhat, let's say 60% of the data, but the accuracy is very, very poor. And as soon as you get into you can't trust the data, it becomes even harder to make any kind of business decisions or, troubleshooting of, hey, this application went down. How do I get some, quick insights into it for the MTTA, MTTR, and it just becomes a very, very tough struggle. So that's kind of the challenges of the market today. And there's no kind of one size fit all kind of solution. I'm inherently going to talk a little bit about Opsera because, one, I obviously work here, and two, I haven't seen a solution out there that's as easy to out of the box get these kind of KPIs and stitch together all of these different tools that are typically found in an environment. So I apologize up front. I won't spend a lot of time talking about it, but it's inherently going to kind of come up here. So today in the market, there is a abundance of tools out there. You name it, from Jira, ServiceNow, PagerDuty, Sumo Logic, Splunk, Datadog, and all these different tools. I mean, there's APM data, there's logs, there's metrics, and combining all those across all your different systems and maintaining it are very, very difficult, task to accomplish. And a lot of folks, just give up and they don't even try it. They just have visibility into one application that's, important to them, revenue generating, or one of their top performing ones that they need to, constantly monitor, keep eyes on. So this makes it very, very difficult, to dive into. And today, this application that I talked to you about, so this might be one app, it becomes a very, very complicated string of different deployments. This language has its own specific tools to deploy it, to monitor it. And we see that, an application has 20 different tools. It takes months of time to set up. And then a lot of time is just lost managing these tools and trying to set them up, accordingly and maintain them. And then when security and quality issues happen, so if someone asks, hey, what happened with this application? How well are we performing? These questions are very hard to answer without the right visibility, and analytics into it. Now you add multi-cloud, digital at scale and microservices to the mix. It's very, very hard to figure out where in this web, did something happen? Are we doing better than yesterday? How do we benchmark ourselves? And it really comes down to complexity. It's a lot more complex than it was, 5, even 4 years ago, just with every, the state of the market and how everything's kind of trending towards these microservices and more complex environments. So like I said, so there's the two kind of approaches: the do it yourself, where you have a team of folks that are writing scripts. Even I've seen Excel sheets that somebody logs in and, spend hours each week getting them up to date. A lot of times it's wrong, and they're not collecting everything, and they try to pump it into Excel sheet or use Power BI to accomplish it. And it's really, really messy, and maintaining it is very, very costly and cumbersome to do. The other side of it is black box, where somebody might have some insights, let's say like GitHub, they might have, some insights into, a certain portion of it. But if they're using GitHub Actions, there's no insights into that. If they're using different modules and the rest of it, so Jenkins or anything else connected to it, or the runners, it's almost impossible to say, all right, well, I'm gonna write scripts to, extend the visibility of that one, tool that gives visibility into GitHub Actions. So a lot of people, they might have it, like I said, in one application or one team, but it's not across their entire organization. And as a business leader, it is really, really tough to say, all right, how are we performing today? Are we getting better? What's our goal? How do we improve ourselves? What's a high performing team look like? And how do we match that and get, our B players up to an A? So without insights across it, it's very, very hard, very hard to accomplish. So here's the kind of the two solutions to the market, like I said. And this is kind of just double clicking into, from build, deploy, and monitor, all the different, tools and technologies that are in the stack. And each team has their own flavor, right? It's hard to force an entire organization to say, all right, everyone's standardizing on this tool, get rid of what you're doing, all the hard work that you put in. Now, there's a skill gap. You have to learn that tool. It's kind of takes you back a step to go forward. And a lot of folks just aren't willing to do that. It is a large undertaking. So from build, unit testing, functional, container stand, all through the mix, these tools become important, and you need to have visibility in each one of them to understand what happened when they break and how to, repeat high performers. You move to a new tool, you bring something in, you have to change everything if you're manually doing that today. So yeah, it's a big question I hear from a lot of folks saying, how are my teams performing? Are we better? Are we worse? Why is one team performing so much better than the other? And without having insights into that, you're literally just kind of flying in the dark and kind of taking guesses and checking at the end of the day. So, to get better, and it's not shaming the folks that are doing bad, we have, developer productivity with Opsera that's kind of out of the box, where you can understand why a team's getting better, the bottlenecks of a team, who's releasing the most, who's being the most productive. And it's more than holding folks accountable. It's not really, it is about that, but it's more about trying to get better and identifying why one team is performing so much better than the next. And as leadership, as in times now, like now, where, budgets are kind of getting really, really tight and folks are having a hard time, justifying new spends. and trying to optimize the whole do more with less is really, really popular. But how do you accomplish that if you don't know, how are you doing well today and where you can improve upon? So insights are extremely important, not just on maintaining reliability of applications, but figuring out how do we get better? How do we deliver more value to the customer? How do we get ahead of issues? And, are we building features and functions that our customers, want to see, right? If you have unified insights, through Opsera, you can tie back each application, each team, each sprint on the number of hours that your team's actually spending writing that to business value that's driving from the sales of the business side. So here's a couple of examples here on dashboards out of the box that you get with Opsera and we bucketize them right into developer productivity, security metrics, pipeline metrics, and then DORA metrics, which are great. And I don't want to say they're table stakes, but making metrics actionable, not just having visibility into it. It's great to see it, and that's step one. But actually getting actionable intelligence out of them to say, all right, let me dive and double click in deeper to say, what's happening in there? Can I see the logs? Is everything, is everything running as expected? Do I have notifications? Do I have alerts when things do go wrong so we can reduce that MTTA in our, so here's just a sample list of, what we have out of the box today. It's not all inclusive, but just, standard KPIs that we see that most folks use and, want to have insights into. And here's just an example of a company. It's a, large manufacturing company that makes everything from thermostats to missile guided systems and all across the gambit. And, previously when the Log4j issue happened, folks spent months of time trying to identify, where's that running? What's happening? And within, 2 to 3 days, they were able to patch and figure out, all right, well, it's running in my environment in all of these different places. Let's run, a pipeline to patch these. And we're able to fix that where it would have taken them months. And that's just a testament of having, insights and a good idea on their environment where each technology is running. And it also helped too when they wanted to justify and do some tool rationalization. So they were using about I think the 125 or 128 tools, and understanding what was running where and who's using which technologies. They're able to reduce that down to 30 and save I think it was a couple $1 million on tool costs. So there are some collateral benefits from having unified insights in and understanding, from MTTA, MTTR, tool rationalization, security issues happen, we can identify them and fix them really fast. It turned them from 2 before they had this into a 4 on the maturity scale, just because they had this in place and took this seriously. And Opsera obviously helped them accomplish that. And real quick, I just wanted to go over so when you engage with Opsera, we typically do like a DevOps maturity score. So we go through, processes, identity access management, source code, SAST, Vault, threat management, governance. And at the end here, we do a section for unified insights. So do you have mechanisms to capture end-to-end visibility of your software delivery management process? Are you tracking the security and quality posture of your software builds and deploy process? Do you have a way to report, key KPIs related to security posture across your CI/CD pipeline? Do you have actionable insights to track and report known security vulnerabilities, issues by bugs? And, that's a really important one, actually. Are you tracking and reporting critical and high vulnerabilities across your software delivery management? So that's kind of the tip of the iceberg that we start with, and we obviously double click in, a lot more from there. And I just kind of wanted to show one more page before I kind of jump into the platform quickly. So, from pipeline, from software development, from security, from quality, here are things out of the box that you get that most folks would want to have in place immediately to be able to track these, to say also when their management says, what are you guys doing? You can say, well, here we release this many times, the reliability increase from this to this, and be able to actually, justify a lot of times that you guys are doing good work. And, there is a kind of two sides to the coin of, Big Brother holding people accountable, but you can use this information to gamify the system against other developers to say who's doing the best and make it more of a competitive thing than hey, I see that you haven't done as many commits as I would have liked, or the quality or the security. So that's just one way to look at it that I see a lot of folks kind of use in management, kind of justify what their team's been doing and improvements. So from pipeline software development, you mean we can take any one of these, average time spent to deploy code to commit, so you can see where the bottlenecks are if they're sitting in testing, if they're sitting in waiting to be deployed. Software testing from quality, unit test failures, number of tests failed on unexpected exceptions, from quality, security. I'm going to go fast, and I will send this after as a follow-up, a couple of these presentations that I have now, and also this doc and another, so you can take a look at it, and we're happy to review. If you want to reach out to us and book some time, we can go through really in depth on what you have today and kind of what are you looking for. But from operations, deployment, average time of commits, from security, quality, hooking into all the different security tools that you have today and your reliability from this release to the next, how many vulnerabilities were introduced. Yeah, I won't spend a lot of time here, but there's quite a few KPIs that can be chose and set up to be a dashboard. And then next thing I just kind of want to show right before I know I'm already 20 minutes in. I want to leave a little bit of time for Q&A. So this is just a presentation of the platform, right? I just took and created kind of by how it works. So here's the agility, security, quality, productivity and compliance, kind of the categories that we place these things into. So it's nice and easy for somebody to choose. I'm a ops manager. I want to choose these type of KPIs. So we actually have a marketplace where you actually click these KPIs and choose and add them to a dashboard that you want. And then each dashboard, as I can show you right now, can be drilled down on. So if I'm looking at build deploy statistics, I can click any dashboard and say, all right, well, what happened? How long did it take? Who's doing what? And then actually pull up the blueprints. So you can click and triple click in 3 times. And once again, I'll send this presentation out to you guys so you guys can take a look at this. But DORA metrics, like I said, we have those out of the box. And then we really spent a lot of time and emphasis on this persona base. So a developer, what should they be looking at? Merge requests, commits by author, commits by project, pending merge requests, by user, active contributors. So, story, ticket, JIRA count, PR count, bug counts, build and deployment stats, and lines committed. Here's just kind of a sample. And there's a plethora more, but this is just like a typical dashboard that we would start with. From a manager, how many deployments, artifacts, lead times, automation test percentages. Git custodian is I'll save that for another day, but it's a proprietary tool that we have for scanning repos for secrets, keys, passwords, just so if you see it. Sonar Cube, code smells, deployment analytics per application, so you can see across them. Burn down charts, stories, tickets, average lines per code per pull request. And then executive, right? Executive is going to be completely different than a developer or even a manager at some level. So deployment frequencies, MTTR, MTTA, pulling in JIRA, pulling in ServiceNow, security posture, and then issues by Covidity. And then another thing that we just kind of wanted to bring up is leaderboards. So it's great to have leaderboards of saying, hey, this application versus this application, who's doing better and why? Like I talked about, understanding why a team's high performing and where can we improve upon, let's say, another team that's just not doing as well. Here's a great way to say, hey, I want to compare these 2 teams and have leaderboards and publish those out weekly to say, hey, I want to have some pride. I want to say, hey, I went from a 6 on the charts to a 2. And I did want to call, this is our old UI. We have a new UI coming shortly. That's a lot more kind of intuitive. It looks really good. But and then how to get, like I said, all these different systems and all these different tools, how to get them all in one place is really, really tough. And it's almost like it's a index or like a CMDB of like all the tools that you have in Opsera. What we do is we connect them in a tool registry. You register them once, you put RBAC on them. So I won't go into onboarding examples. I know we only have, I want to leave 5 minutes left. But this is what the the platform looks like if I went into, let's say, manager, and I wanted to see, hey, here's a manager level deployment stats, lead times, automation test percentage. I can take these KPIs, I can toggle the settings, I can pick it, slice and dice it by application team, by date, by product. We have a unique kind of tagging strategy that we have in Opsera that can break it down by any kind of slice and dice that you'd like to see. And then you can configure these dashboards at the dashboard level or at the master level to be able to slice and dice them. Let me go to 1 second. Manager. Really quick here. So here would be like a developer, what they would see, right? Merge request, pull request, and like I said, this can be configured however you'd like. Any one of these can be double clicked on. You can see more information and go actually into the pipeline logs. We also have different modules like connected assets where you can see what's running where in every environment. So if you want to consolidate, you need to upgrade. There's a plethora of different. This is probably 20% of the insights. I know we didn't have a lot of time. I think I sold myself short on how much I was actually going to talk, but let me stop there and pause. Are there any questions anybody has? Or and once again, if I'm happy to send an email to everybody out. I know there's quite a few folks on here, but I'll send an email kind of with some of this information, some of the presentations, and feel free to reach out. We're happy to do kind of a one-on-one session with you to kind of develop a roadmap of, hey, where you're at today and where you want to go. We do a workshop that about 45 minutes or an hour to put together a plan for you on which insights you want to keep, kind of the troubles that you're having today, which systems that you have, how to connect them, and it's more of a consultative approach to it instead of, hey, one size fits all. But yeah, that's a lot of me talking. I appreciate everyone's time here.